Hello. As you may know, I run an audio and video transfer business and I have a lot of equipment to do that, all kinds of different formats and machines. And sometimes people are nice enough to donate equipment to me, which I've featured on this channel many times before. Of course, I'm not interested in video recorders and things just for the fun of it. Everything I have donated that's useful to me is equipment that I can use for my transfer business. So, for example, I don't use domestic VHS video recorders for any transfers. I only use professional Super VHS high-grade ones. Really, I have no interest at all in old VHS video recorders.
Delivery.
Oh, so I wonder what's in this very heavy box. So what do we have here? Huge Ferguson Video Star, which is of course a JVC built machine. Model 3V23. This was kind of JVC's answer to the Betamax Sony C7, which is throw everything at it, no expense spared. So it was an early machine with every feature they could think of to throw at a VHS machine. Camera socket, it's got remote control, but this one, alas, is missing its remote control. So if anyone has one they could sell me, please let me know. And speaking of remote control, a bit of fun. I knew a chap who had one of these, and he bought a new TV because his old Philips had destroyed its tube, as was common with Philips TVs, and he bought a nice new Sony. And then he had a problem. The Sony was teletext, and when he was typing in numbers for the teletext pages, when he hit number 5 on the Sony remote, the video recorder ejected the tape. Even though there wasn't a button for eject on the remote control, why would there be? It still has a code for eject as one of the codes it will accept. So every time he pressed number 5 on the remote control for the teletext, the video recorder would eject the tape, which was extremely annoying. So he got rid of the video recorder. Some people might have got rid of the telly. So we will try that later. I'll find a Sony remote and we'll press number 5 and we'll see if it ejects a tape, if we can get this old heap of junk working. But apart from missing remote control, it appears to be cosmetically reasonably good. Could use quick clean, but we don't know what its working condition is, and it's going to be non-working, of course. Let me have a look around the back. Oh, and the cabinet. It's definitely been apart. Audio, showing its age a bit here, instead of phono in and out, it has 5-pin DIN. And 5-pin DIN could be stereo, but this machine isn't. It doesn't even have linear stereo sound. I hadn't kind of thought of it. So sound quality is extremely limited. Power on-off switch at the back, composite video in and out, a colour switch for no particular reason, and I think that's a modulator switch as well, and of course antenna in and out, and as we've seen at the front, a camera socket. A tape memory feature, so you could find parts, it would record blips on the tape. Seek tuning, could do ×2 and picture search, frame advance, so quite similar features in that respect to the Sony C7. Right, we should power this up. Oh look, it's got microphone and headphone sockets on the front, so you can do audio dubbing. There we go, audio dub button, so you can record narration on top of your recording. But if you selected audio dub, I think it completely erases the original audio. Unlike what would happen on, say, a VHS or Beta Hi-Fi, where you do audio dub, you keep the original Hi-Fi audio. Let's pair it up on our isolation transformer and see what state the display is in. It's got a vacuum fluorescent display. Dim-ish, but okay. Do you like the way the digits are flashing, but they're not all synchronized due to the speed of the processor in it. Okay, so that's good. Where's the on-off button? Is there an on-off button? On. Made a whir. We'll just try popping a tape in, shall we? Okay, we have a tape. What else do I remember about these machines? They have a very complicated front loading mechanism with chains that drive the tape in. God, I'll show you that in a minute. So, and it's not taking the tape in. So the complicated front loading mechanism may be part of our problem. Oh joy, we can have a play with that then. Right, I'll take the lid off and let's see what's going on inside. Okay, so looking down on it, where's this wonderful chain mechanism? There we go, look, chain driven, you see? What a weird way of doing things. But that doesn't appear to be our problem at the moment, I don't think so. What seems to be happening is it's not seeing that the tape is going in. So I'm not quite sure where the tape in switch is. Another thing, of course, this is showing its age again. VHS always had the problem that auto-stop was rubbish. Beta's auto-stop system's better. The auto-stop on VHS involves shining a light through the tape. And in these early machines, it was a light bulb, which of course would fail and stop the machine. And it's even possible that the light bulb is part of our problem. So I think I will actually check that light bulb in a moment. Because should it be on now? I don't know. Look, when I switch it on, the chain drive is working. Right, do you know what? I think I'm going to check that light bulb before I go any further. I may even have a spare, some suitable type anyway. Can't quite remember where the wiring to the light bulb goes. I mean, it has been some years since I worked on one of these. I do remember changing heads on various of the two-headed VHS machines. And you do remember what happens, don't you, if you install the heads back to front? You get black and white playback. I think we're going to have to go underneath to get to the other end of that wire. Yep, let's look underneath. I think this is another one of those machines where you can take the modulator out as an anti-theft device. You could do that with the Sanyo VTC 9300. Was it the case also with the Toshiba video recorder I was working on a while ago, the Toshiba Beta? I think that's true on that one. It was a way of stopping anyone using your machine if they stole it. If you'd taken the modulator away, they couldn't use it easily. So we get underneath. I can see there's a capstan belt here that is in fairly rough shape. I don't know if you can see that, but that's horrible. So we're going to have to replace that. Can I get to the other side of the light bulb wiring? It's got a 2-pin plug at the end of that blue wire. Right, I think this is the blue wire at the end of the light bulb. Let's unplug it and check for continuity. We should see some ohms. I think it's is it 5 or 12 volt? I forget. Let's check continuity on that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is an open circuit light bulb. So there's our first fault. Let's see if I have a replacement. Something a bit like this, though I think this one's got a much shorter cable, but it's the same plug on the end. But the wire's a bit short on this one compared to the original, so I may have to come up with a solution to that. think I'm going to have to extend the wire. Just before I do that though, what I'm going to do is plug this in here and just see if when I power the machine up, if it lights the bulb up. If it does, then that I think indicates that that might be the reason the machine didn't run. Right, I'm going to try to switch it on. It's a bit awkward because it's set on its back where the power cable goes in, but let's see if I can just switch it on and see if the bulb flashes. There we go. Right, and that brightness looks about right. So I'm good to install this in here. I'll find one way or another of fitting this bulb in this location. Actually, what I think I might do is cut this wire and solder it up at the top end of the deck so I don't have to thread the wires back through again. So yeah, I'll do it that way I think. I'll put this back together and solder this at the top. Okay, the bulb is installed. Let's switch it on. So press the on button. Now will it take a tape? Well, it's doing more than it was last time. It sounds like it's got a slipping drive belt. So we've got some work to do with drive belts next. Okay, the carriage belt, I think we can see there, is well in need of replacement. Look at the state of that. That's very slack. So it pops off the top of the motor, but I can't quite remember how to get it off the top of this pulley, whether I can just lift it off or if I have to start dismantling things. Okay, so off the motor. Now I've got to take the circlip off the top of the shaft that pulley sits on. So do I take the cassette carriage out to gain access to that? Possibly. Let's see if that gets us anywhere. Since this carriage has its own motor, there shouldn't be any retiming issues between the deck and the carriage. It looks like to take the carriage out, I probably have to take this bar off the front. Well, it's clearly a long time since I've worked on one of these, and I have no idea how to get this cassette carriage out, but releasing this bar here is not the way. So I'm going to put those screws back. Maybe you have to just do it in situ. I'm going to have to find a way to take the circlip off this shaft here and manoeuvre the belt off it, but it just seems so awkward. And all they had to do was arrange for these parts here to be able to clear the deck somehow, but they didn't. It's just harder than it needs to be. Okay, so that's the circlip removed. So I can push this whole assembly down slightly, and then I can take the belt off the top. There we go, at last. Let's replace that. Okay, I found a drive belt which, well, it's probably a little bit on the smaller side, but then this is extremely stretched. I think that will do the job, and it's a decent diameter. It's probably another 2mm belt, which I think that one is. So we'll have a go with that one. Okay, I've got the shaft back into position. Now I've got to try and put the circlip back in place without losing it. I just lost it. That was bound to happen, wasn't it? Oh dear. Okay, I've managed to find the circlip. Let's try not to lose it again. It's just so awkward not being able to get the cassette carriage out properly. Alright, I managed to get the carriage out and now I can fix it properly. It is so awkward to get out this cassette carriage. I honestly feel like the manufacturers designed it out of spite for the poor soul who has to work on it. So unnecessary. Right, I can change that belt properly now. Okay, I struggled really badly trying to work on this in situ. It was almost impossible. I kept dropping things. Eventually I got there, so I managed to take this out, and what we've got is this shaft here with, it's got a black flat washer underneath this pillar and one on the top, and then a circlip on the top of that, and this is the drive belt I've now installed, which feels like it's about the right size. But now I've got to try to refit this to the machine, and the problem is these tangs here have to be manoeuvred into the deck, and it's just rotten design that they didn't make this a lot easier to get out. Because I've got the same problem now. You can't, fit this back in. It's a horrible bit of design. They really should have thought this through better. All this stuff collides with this circuit board, so you can't get out that way, and it's just really tight. So if you're old enough to remember working on these machines, how did you get this module in and out? It's such a long time since I worked on one, I can't remember. I don't remember how I solved this problem back in the day. Okay, what I've managed to do is convince this piece of chain-driven madness to engage the chain there and take it down. So these will now hopefully clear this, and that make it a lot easier to refit. Still not easy. Alright, I'm going to take the front panel off. Hope I don't regret that. Okay, the carriage is going in relatively easily now. Whew. So that's what I should have done. I should have found a way to drive it down and take the front off, and then it all goes together. Now hopefully I can drive it back up again. I've driven it back up to the top more or less, so I can refit the screws for the front carriage. Now we know we have more belts to replace. We have certainly the capstan belt and doubtlessly the loading belt as well. So I don't know if I should try it at its present state or wait until I've changed all the belts. I think I'll just power it up and check that it's happy. Okay, so if I just switch it on, that did something fairly sensible. Good. That was horrendous. Now I'm guessing that to refit the front, I open it and put it in. That would be normal, but of course there's nothing normal about the front loading mechanism on this machine. It's every bit as not normal as the Sony SLC9. Right, so for a moment we can leave the top and work underneath. Okay, we need something to prop this machine open with, and the obvious choice being a beta tape. So we've got this very sad looking, that is the Capstan motor belt, isn't it, to change. This looks like the loading belt that actually looks to be in okay condition, but we'll check it. Right, start with this one anyway. Do I have something of a suitable size? Alright, this belt is really quite crusty. Okay, the nearest belt I've managed to find is 79 by 5. So this was one of the belts I was using as an experiment for N1502, N1700 belts. But this one was a little bit too long for that. And it looks possibly a little short for this and possibly a little narrow, but it's in the order of things. So let's see if that will fit and work. Alright, now that's installed, that doesn't feel too short at all. That feels like just about the right size. I quite like that. So that's probably the trickiest belt to source. Now by good luck, I had something in stock. Right, what about this loading belt? And how easy is it to get to? It'd be easy to spring off the top of the motor, but we're going to go into another circlip hell with this. Oh no, that really is bad. It's almost inaccessible. You can't get to the circlip because this bracket's in the way. I think what you have to do is probably take the loading motor off. You can take the bracket off. Okay, that probably gives us the access we need. But if it's just a case of undo one more screw to take the whole motor off, we will. Okay, so that's not too bad. So we can take that circlip off, replace this belt. It does feel a bit, oh yeah, that is tired. It's well worth doing. So I just need to source a belt like that. It doesn't look too hard. Okay, this belt looks promising. It was actually one of the spare belts from my Sanyo Beta kits, because they came with belts that not every model needs. So I think that's probably the front loading belt for one of the Sanyo models. So we can fit that one in its place. So let's refit that black washer on the end there, and then the circlip over the top, which we'll try not to ping across the room. Okay, I think that's the belts covered. We can do a little bit more testing now. Okay, we're ready for our first mechanical test. So we can pop a tape in and see what it does. I've screwed this board down. If we have some problems, we'll have to take that off again. Right, so power up. Press the on button. We should see the light flash. It momentarily ran the head drum, which I don't think it did before. Not sure why that happened. Okay, let's see if it'll take a tape. Okay, doesn't lace up, being VHS. Right, let's find the play button. No, let's do fast forward and rewind first. Play comes later. Fast forward. A little slow to get started, but I think that's probably normal. stop, rewind. Okay, fast forward again. Let's go for play. A little bit of head drum bearing noise, nothing extraordinary, considering it's probably not been used for a long time. But that's not too bad. And stop. Unlaces okay, does it? Quite encouraging. I'll connect it to the TV. I might have to do video only for a moment because I'd have to lash up an audio cable for that DIN plug. So let's just see if we get a picture out of it first. On-screen graphics are wiggling about, and I think that's because we've got the tuner tuning to nothing. I'm not sure where the auxiliary input is on this one. If we had aux input, that would probably stop. Oh, press aux. There we go, that stabilised that. Right, so let's try play. And we have a picture. This may not be the world's best tape, and I don't know where the tracking control is. Yes, okay. We may have some head switching noise at the bottom, but I will get a better tape, or better part of this tape, and see what it does. So apart from the head switching noise at the bottom, it seems okay. We'll try another tape, and if we still have the head switching problem, then we know we need to make an adjustment for that. Right, how does eject work? Let's try that. That worked, but it was a little bit slippy on these rollers, so I'll put a little bit of roller restorer on those. I seem to have mislaid my roller restorer, so I'll just roughen them up with a bit of glass paper. Let's see if that helps. No, it's definitely struggling a little bit with those. I will definitely have to find my platen clean to try to get the rollers to grip the tape slightly better. I mean, it's working, but they could use a bit more grip. Especially if you're getting the tape out. Yeah. It's easy enough for me to push it out when the lid's off, but when the lid is on, that's going to be inconvenient. So just lifting this a little bit is enough to get it to rotate and try to load a tape. So that's handy because I can use that for roughening. Yeah, it's working a bit better. Here we go, platen clean. It's intended for printer rollers, but it will help with this sort of roller as well. Okay, I have a pre-recorded tape here, so we shouldn't have any head switching errors. The rollers are sort of doing their thing now. Adjust the tracking. Oh, that's okay. A little bit of instability. It seems that I can get the tracking when it's in the center position. Need to put the control back in the right place. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to get tracking stable with no noise at top or bottom. So I think our FM envelope may be a little off, or maybe, ideally, it would like new heads. Right, I'll look at the FM envelope. I'll need the service manual for that. Then we can see where to pick up the FM envelope and head switching points, and see if we can bring in the top and bottom of the picture simultaneously, because it seems that I've either got top or bottom perfect, but not both. It could be headwear, though I'm not sure it is, because I'm not seeing any little tails of streaks on highlights, which is a typical headwear issue. So it could just be the guides need a small adjustment. Right, let's find out where those signals are on this model. At the moment I don't have the service manual for this machine, so I'm going to have to either work out for myself where the FM envelope and head switching signals are, or just eyeball it, you know. And you can do that, right? You can have a look at the picture and twiddle the input and output guides until the top and bottom of the picture are noise free, but it's better to do it with the FM envelope if you can. And it's going to be typically in the area of the head amplifier here. So I'm looking for some test signals. I can see one there. That could be one of the signals we need, and there's another one there. So maybe it's worth just sticking the scope on those, but I've got to be a bit careful that this doesn't short out on the back there. That's a bit of a poor design, isn't it? Should be set up so that that can't short to anything. That could have been designed a bit better. Okay, I've got that in a position that it's safe. So let's look at the signals here. There's also some pins at the back. Some test pins at the back of the head amplifier. So I'm just guessing. Let's switch on my oscilloscope and see what we find. So I'll just get the machine playing a tape and see what we find on these test signals here. Is that the RF envelope? It might be. Let's adjust the tracking and see if that changes. Yes, I think that's the FM envelope. Okay, that's very much looking like the FM envelope of a machine that has FM envelope problems. But we also need to pick up the head switching pulse if we're going to do this properly. Would that be the other test pin over here? Okay, for whatever reason I'm not going to find the head switching signal, so we're just going to have to work with the FM envelope itself, which is not ideal. So with the tracking in the center position, you know, we should be seeing an envelope which is fairly flat without these bits missing off the ends. So I'm going to very slightly adjust the input guide initially. I'm also taking a note of where it presently is. I'm going to turn it slightly. Let's see if we can flatten off that envelope. So when I turned it anti-clockwise by about less than a turn, I've got a much flatter envelope there and much less jitter on the TV. Now if I adjust the tracking from one end to the other, I'm getting much more like what I'd expect. Alright, that's not too bad. Good. That's a much better response. I'm a lot happy about that. So there it is with the tracking in the center position. If I go tracking far to the right, the picture breaks up a little bit and it comes off, and if we go further to the left, it goes the other way. It breaks up at that's the bottom of the picture. And in the middle it's fairly flat. We can only just about see where the head switch is actually happening without the head switching signal. So that's not worked out too badly. I'm almost tempted to... I've got the tracking deliberately to the left and there's mistracking at the bottom of the picture, and I'm almost tempted to very slightly adjust the exit guide and see if I can just improve that exit signal just a hint. That's flattened it off there, and I just had to adjust the guide by the tiniest little amount. And now I think if I go back to the center position, it's, yes, that's better. I mean, that's so flat you can't even see where the head switches are happening. So that's far one extreme, that's the middle, that's far the other extreme. And in the middle, that's pretty good, pretty good. You can just about see a little rounding of the head signal in the middle, but it's pretty good. So I'm pretty pleased now that the FM envelope's fairly flat and that we've got a fairly good picture. I would still argue that back in the day I would probably have fitted new heads to this machine because heads were so cheap. They were about sort of £10–15 and I'd have probably set a new heads into it, but I don't suppose they're available now. I've been rummaging around in a big box of video recorder spares that was sent to me by a viewer, and some of these are of roughly the right vintage. Some of the idlers and things are roughly the right vintage, like that. I don't think that's the right one for this machine, but it's similar. But I'm not seeing any new heads in here, which is a pity because I certainly would have changed them if there had been some. And another box of spares here. This is all N1700, I think. Video head, VHS. Oh, what's that? Might that be what we're looking for? I'd be very surprised. No, it's not. It's subtly different, unfortunately. Let's have a look. Yeah, the head drum on our target machine here has got this big indent at the top. No doubt a different part number. And this is just a different shape. So no, oh, that's a real shame. If that had been the right set of heads, I certainly would have fitted them. Alright, that's as far as I can go today, I think. If anybody has a spare set of heads for this model, which I think was the same, fitted on lots of early VHS machines, 3V00, 16, 22, I think they all took the same heads. So if you have a spare set of new heads, do let me know. Also, if you have the remote control. Oh, we do want to try that Sony trick, don't we, to see if pressing number 5 makes it eject the tape. We'll give that a go in a moment. These are all the very tired belts that came off the machine. Throw those away. Well, I was just wrapping up with this machine and I'd organised an audio cable and then found we have a problem. Can you hear that warble on the sound? Oh dear. So we have some serious Capstan variability. You know, that is flutter, not wow. So why is the Capstan speed wobbling so much? We need to investigate the Capstan motor or the Capstan itself. Just when we thought we'd finished it. Let's take a look underneath. Could it be that that belt was too short? It's a possibility, isn't it? Though I don't think so, actually. I'm going to clean the Capstan motor pulley. Maybe that's got a little bit of drive belt stuck to it from the old drive belt. Yeah, it's worth trying to do that, I think. The motor itself spins freely. I'm not seeing a problem with that. Of course, it could be a dead spot on the motor. I'm cleaning the Capstan flywheel. I'm detecting an unevenness on its surface. But I don't think that's enough to cause the problem, because it's a very high speed warble. So I'm going to say that it's caused by a higher frequency than is the rotation of this flywheel. Yes, I'm right about that. The speed of the flywheel rotation is much lower than the warble. So it's either a motor fault or a Capstan servo fault. I've got it in slow motion mode now because I'm wondering if there was a dead spot on the motor in that slow motion, it might stop if it hits the dead spot on the motor, and it's not. There is one other possibility. is that the video head drum rotation is grabbing the tape. I've known that before. So it could be the video head, it might have contamination on it, might have oxide on it. So we'll go and have a look at the video head and have a look at the top of the deck. This might not be something I can fix today. Looking at the head drum, that is clean and shiny, so that's not snatching a tape. So it's either the Capstan motor itself or a servo fault. I'm going to put a little switch cleaner into the top of the Capstan motor here. Not sure if that'll reach down to the brushes, but I think it will actually. A drop of this. Just leave it playing for a while, see if things improve. I'll also get a tape with a constant tone so I can hear somewhat better than with just music and speech whether we've solved it. Oh! It's sounding perfect! Oh, I didn't expect that. That was a result. I'll just leave it on test for a while. That's much happier. And just as the fault went away, it came back again. So I don't know if it is the motor. It could be an electronic fault. Well, heating it up didn't seem to help much, so we're going to have to do some more work on this. Okay, I've been doing some experiments. Firstly, I do not have the full schematics, but I do have some information from Television Magazine, July 1983, where it does discuss how the Capstan servo works. There is a Capstan sample position free running speed adjustment, and I gave that a small tweak because I'm thinking Sony SLC6 that can drift out due to capacitor trouble on that model. I gave it a small tweak and got it so that it went slower and went too slow and lost sync. When you turned it the other way, it just didn't make any difference. So it's not a case of that was on the edge, because that can cause that sort of warble if the servo's on the edge. So what I've got now is, I should say, I dropped this board down and then the fault disappeared for a while. So let's see where we are. I've made up a new test recording with tones, so we'll give that a whirl. Okay, this has got stereo sound, so it's going up and down. Of course, this machine can't handle stereo. But what do we find? That the wow and flutter performance on that is within spec for a lo-fi machine playing a manky old tape. Put this back again. So we do appear to have something of an intermittent fault, possibly on the servo panel. A completely gone away intermittent fault on the servo panel. Oh dear, dear. Okay, the fault has completely gone away. I'm going to just examine this board for dry joints. No, I'm not seeing dry joints. I found one that I think I might resolder just be on the safe side, but I'm sure that's not the smoking gun. So, you know, when you see dry joints, you tend to see lots of them, usually, not just one in isolation, unless it's a component that vibrates a lot, like some inductors do. But no, there's nothing really here that's likely to be the cause. But we'll resolder this connection here just because it's a little dull. Just not seeing anything that looks bad enough to be a problem. Let me look at capacitors and see if any of those look a little crusty. Nothing obvious. So I guess all I can do is soak test it for a while. I'll put the circuit board back into its place, I think. It's a little bit annoying, isn't it, that we think we have a fault and it ran away. We'll test it again. No, there's no warble there. Well, I'll leave it on test for a while. Right, okay. I'll leave it on test for a while. Seems okay at the moment. Oh, right, yes. We all want to know what happens, don't we, if I press number 5 on this Sony TV remote. I genuinely haven't tried this. I don't even know where the sensor is. Somewhere over there. Let's try it. Huh, absolutely nothing happens. Okay. It's a few days later. The machine is still very much working, but sometimes I can still hear a hint of the audio warble. It's all right now, but I did hear it slightly earlier, so I think we are going to have to revisit that problem at some point in the future. Well, that will do for now. I would really love to get hold of a remote control for this, either the original Ferguson one or even the JVC one, which is essentially the same, so that it can sort of finish off the package. For what purpose? It's clearly not the sort of machine I'm going to use in my business, but it might make a good prop for a TV program that was set around about 1982, 83, something like that, in a sort of well-to-do family, because these were expensive machines. Now, I'm going to do some more testing on it, of course. I've also tested the clock and the display, and everything is all working beautifully. So I'd like to get it into even better condition than it is, and then my plans for it are probably to sell it to somebody who really appreciates this machine, because it's not something I can particularly use. But it has been fun working on it and reminding myself of that wonderful chain-driven front-loading mechanism. It's extraordinary, isn't it? Right, I'll do plenty more content on audio and video technology in the near future. Bye for now. You know the saying, the show must go on. Well, kind of, YouTubers are putting on a show most of the time. And, we are kind of entertainers, and we're providing something for you guys to watch. And such it was that when I filmed that video you've seen working on this 3V23, I had a stinking cold. My eyes were streaming, I was sniffing and coughing and sneezing. And I edited all that out pretty much. And you couldn't really tell, but I was struggling. And I was struggling also with the machine, in particular, trying to get a circuit back into the front-loading cassette carriage, because I hadn't worked out how to get the carriage out of the machine to reassemble it. So I was trying to put a circuit back when the carriage was still on the machine. And I was starting to actually struggle. And I had a stinking cold. And I was starting to get really unhappy. It's just too awkward. It's just too awkward.